Hi, I'm Sunil Balasundaram, the pastor of the Conshohocken United Methodist Church, which is here in Conshohocken, Pennsylvania. Thank you so much for joining us once again this week for another weekly devotion. What is forgiveness? Is it easy to forgive someone, or does forgiveness get harder with the magnitude of the wrong that is done against us, against you, against me? In order to answer this question to Peter, one of Jesus' disciples, Jesus tells this story, which is recorded in Matthew chapter 18, verses 23 to 34, saying, Therefore the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. As he began the settlement, a man who owed him 10,000 talents, a lot of money, was brought to him. Since he was not able to pay, the master ordered that he and his wife and his children and all that he had be sold and to repay the debt. The servant fell on his knees before him. Be patient with me, he begged, and I will pay you back everything. The servant's master took pity on him, cancelled the debt, and let him go. But when the servant went out, he found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii, a relatively smaller amount, and grabbed him by the throat and began to choke him. Pay back what you owe me, he demanded. His fellow servant fell to his knees and begged him, Be patient with me, and I will pay you back. The man refused. Instead, he went off and had the man thrown into prison until he could pay the entire debt. When the other servants saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed and went and told their master what had happened. Then the master called the servant in and said, You wicked servant, he said. I cancelled all that debt of yours because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have had some mercy on your fellow servant just as I had on you? In anger, his master turned him over to the jailers to be tortured until he should pay back all he owed. This is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you unless you forgive your brother from your heart. Jesus was trying to help people understand God's love and really the responsibility we have once we have received it. You know, take for granted God's immense, fantastic, undeserved love. Love that accepts you as you are. Love that forgives and cancels your past. And if you have received and experienced this kind of love, don't look at people and relationships through the normal lens, a lens that you've heard people talk about. Lens that says, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. You've heard that, right? Instead, look at people through the lens of do unto others as you have experienced God doing to you, or God dealing with you. Or, shall I say this again, do unto others as you've experienced God's love in your own life. The first servant had experienced forgiveness. He had a debt he could not repay. And the master, the king, forgave it. He said, I cancel all my debt, all your debt to me. And what about you and me? When we look at our own lives and what we have done to ourselves and how we have treated people around us, and most importantly, how we have treated God and the sin we have committed against God, and God turns around and looks at us and says, my child, my daughter, my son, I accept you as you are. I forgive your past. I've paid the cost. I will take you as you are and forgive you. There's nothing you can do to pay back, to pay any penance, to pay anything back. I just take you as you are. If I've experienced that kind of love, that kind of forgiveness, how can I look at anybody else who has done something comparatively smaller, anything that anybody has done against me will always be much, much, much smaller than what I have done against God. And if God has forgiven me that, how can I look at anybody else that has done anything against me, even something wrong, and not forgive that person? Jesus was saying, if you've truly experienced God's forgiveness, God's love in your life, you will find it easy to forgive those that have done something wrong against you. In other words, a true forgiveness brings forth forgiveness in your own life. If you've experienced God's forgiveness, you will learn to forgive others too. Have you experienced God's love and forgiveness? Be a forgiver. You'll know how to experience more and more of God's forgiveness. Thank you so much for joining us, and go on to our website, consciaunited.com, and tell other people also about us. Thank you, and God bless.